Hello and welcome to yet another edition of the Hockey Republic. My good name is George Njuguna, and thank you so much for joining us this day. We have a great show packed for you, beginning with a team that, started on a very wrong foot. I think for like 4 games, anyway, they'll tell us, or was it 3 games? They have not had a good run in the start. And I remember talking to one of them, their TM, who was very optimistic of the team, but I once played a voiceover, a voice note here, and he was very enthusiastic. But then after that aliingia chini ya maji, ameniongelesha tu tena hii wiki after mambo imekuwa mazuri. But anyway, it's good to hear that I am hosting, or rather we are hosting University of Eldoret, and one of the faces here is not one who you can forget easily. One by the name of Emmanuel Kongpin. How are you, sir?
I'm fine, thank you. It's good to be finally on the screen at THR. Yeah, been following, but didn't expect to be here even today. A privilege, it's a privilege. Sisi wengine hatuonekanangi kwa camera lately. Umekuwa huko kwa background.
Umekuwa background na mashinani, eh?
Yeah.
Good. And of course we have Felix, who is the team manager of University of Eldoret. So Felix, uko poa? Karibu sana. Hiyo microphone yako isongeshe karibu tuweze kukusikia vizuri. We're going to talk about several things, beginning with, of course, a review of week 10 of the Kenya Hockey Union League. That's one of the things, and you can engage us on our socials. That is on the different social medias. Just get in touch with us, and if you have any questions or comments for University of Eldoret, Coach Emmanuel and team manager Felix Odete, who is here with us. Gentlemen, let's get this started, and I want to begin with the league, which over the weekend we had a lot of Western league, or rather games from the western part of the league. And if I can just get into the results, even as we get to discuss with you guys. First of all, Emmanuel, I hear this is you've taken charge of this team of late. Tell us, how does it feel into those getting into those shoes from a player now to a coach?
Well, I think it's been a challenge I've been looking forward to. Mm-hmm. I, of course, had worked with the UAE team some time back, but then on an on-off basis, depending on the availability of the then coach, the availability of the TM. So I was standing in at some point, but I think this time the job is cut out for me. Mm-hmm. So it's good to finally feel the pressure of sitting as on the technical bench. Of course, it's not easy. Gotten used to playing, and you get used to the adrenaline of being on the pitch. But trust me, when you are on the technical bench, you have adrenaline, you have high testosterone levels that you can't use. So it's a tall order. It's a tall order. It's not easy, but I think it's been a good challenge.
Maybe for those who may not know who Emmanuel is, because you and I have played this game. We played this game for a while. Probably for those who may not know you, the younger side of the hockey fraternity now. Who is Emmanuel? And probably give us a brief history about yourself.
Well, I think I've been an active, in this space. You as an active player, an active coach, and an active fan throughout. So to start with, I think since immediately after high school, I joined Strathmore University hockey team. We started with a team down there in the National League, played a season in the National League, got promoted to the Premier League, played for Strathmore in the Premier League for I think 4 seasons. I was lucky to win the league twice, and joined Nairobi Simba so for 2 seasons. I disappeared for a year, came back playing for Nakuru. I've been playing for Nakuru now. I think this is my 4th season. So interesting journey for me, playing in the National League with Strath, playing in the Premier League with Strath, playing in the Premier League with Simba, and playing I think 2 seasons with Nakuru. Struggled in the first season, got relegated in the second. Then we went to the Super League with Nakuru, almost got relegated from the Super League, like going down from the Premier League to the Super League and almost going down to the National League. So it's been quite a journey. So yeah, that's my hockey journey. And then now novice coach with him playing in the National League.
Okay, Sawa. Let's look at how you performed this past weekend. Let's look at the results, and this is the National Men's League, and you won 2-0 against UOE on Saturday, and yes, that's it. There's a result missing here, but that's still fine. And then you had Kisii Falcons. You played against Kisii Falcons, and also rather Kisii Falcons played with Nandi Hawks on Saturday. This was in Kisii, and they drew. And then Impala also drew with Gorillas, and you won your game against, what was it, Bay, right? On Sunday, 1-0, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, good. Talk to me before we get to discuss about UOE. Tell me about because you've played against Nandi Hawks. That was the first game. I know you are not in charge of it, but tell me, how are they as a team, and just your general overview of the National Men's League, the Western Zone circuit.
Thanks a lot, Jigush. I think I would say that there's a lot of talent in the Western region. For the UOE team, it's been, since COVID, that was the first competitive match they've played since COVID started. So we can say that, it's been a journey, like 3/4 of the team playing in the National League for that first match for them against Nandi Hawks was playing league matches for the first time. So it was a big challenge for them. Is most of them also out on attachment for those who are in 3rd year and 4th year. They're also having exams, so it was like you're having training session, but less than half the team is there. But I think it was a good experience for them. Much as they lost the game, you could see that they were fighting throughout the game. The game ended 3-1, but it wasn't really a reflection of how they played. They played well, but then because of the experience of the Nandi Hawks side, I think that's where they lost. They lost on experience, and also a few mistakes here and there. And of course, how the league is. You make one mistake, you get punished. So that's what happened for them with the first match. Then I think the second match will happen the other week. So this past weekend came after another loss. They were playing against Blue Pirates in Kakamega. So again, 3-2 results. You would think that but you could see that there was progress. First match 3-1, second match 3-2, but then of course playing again in Kakamega, playing on grass, the boys are used to playing on Maram, some of those challenges. But I think looking at the results for this weekend, I think we were very happy with the performance of the boys. We could see it coming. Of course, we didn't expect 2 wins. We actually weren't going to play for the 2 wins. We were going to play for a good performance. We are telling the boys, just build up on your performance. Don't worry about the result. But of course, we are very happy with the results. Got 6 points on one weekend. It was a good performance from the boys. They are learning the ropes very fast.
Emmanuel, I know you very well. Najua hiyo ni sheepish smile uko nayo na ni answer tu umenipatia for the sake of that. But let me move to Felix. Bit of a static from that side. But if you can hear me, it looks like it's from your end. So just try and exit and then come back, and then we get to just talk to you in just a bit. But Emmanuel, back to you. I know it's been what, your second game in charge, or am I correct me if I'm wrong? Okay, I seem to have lost him. Let's look at the other results that have taken place as we go on. I can see Felix is back. Felix, can you hear me?
Please come again. I think I lost you at some point. I lost you at some point. Please say that again.
Yes. No, I wanted to ask you: was this your second game in charge, or it was your third?
Well, technically my third game, but then I was not on the technical bench for the for the match in Kakamega. But then I had taken over the responsibilities at the time. I had prepared the team for that match. But then because of some other commitments, I didn't make it to be there on the technical bench. But by and large, I think I had taken over the responsibilities. So the games that I was on the technical bench are the home matches that we played this past weekend.
Good. Felix, talk to us about the transition. How has that been? And as a team manager, how has that been received? In the squad. Felix, can you hear me? Yes, I can hear you, but the audio still seems to have a problem. Maybe you can remove the earpiece, and then we see how that will go. In the meantime, Saimo, karibu sana.
Thank you very much, Njugush.
Kenya Power imenifanya maneno. I've had to borrow light from the neighbor to make sure this show goes on. And of course, University of Eldoret guest with us. I know you know Emmanuel very, very well. He's one very familiar face.
Yes.
Yeah, and we're just Emmanuel. I don't know if you can hear me, or rather, Felix. Can you hear me now? Or he seems to have gone to change the earphones. Simon, probably. I know you and I. We need to go down to Eldoret and watch some games. But the general feel of the league for the Western Zone, the National League.
It's an interesting one because we have a couple of new teams that have come in, and we are seeing that they are quite a tricky bunch to deal with. Unfortunately, it's difficult to give a complete analysis of that side, considering that I haven't watched any games so far. But looking at those results, looking at the goals, it's certainly an interesting side of the league to get to view and to get to follow.
Yeah, Felix, you had gotten a very good link, but now you seem to have poteza bit kidogo. Hiyo sound yako ilikuwa imekuwa mzuri. But back to Emmanuel, this is a team you have said that you have been with for a while, not necessarily on the technical bench. Universities come and players come and go. How are you looking at transition? How are you going to deal with the transitions? Moving forward for the squad. Emmanuel?
Well, I think there is one thing that we need to appreciate with the university sides is that you will always lose players for several reasons. Players will finish their studies, they'll go work out of that town. Some players will opt to play for Premier League teams well before they finish campus, depending on the talent. So, and you can't keep a player when a player wants to go and explore talent, because you see, one thing that we also need to appreciate is that the only or the best time for young people playing hockey in Kenya to get time to play for the national team and explore their talent to the fullest is when they're in campus. So if a player feels like, I am beyond playing in the National League, I should get an opportunity to play in the Super League or in the Premier League, then it's all, as someone who's played the game, that's a fair thing to do, to allow the player to go play where they can exploit their talent. Because you also will agree with me that as soon as you finish campus, you're hustling, you're looking for a job. You get a job, you can't get enough hours for training, you can't get time to go and train with the national team. So you have to accept that the fact that for institutional teams, losing players is an everyday process. But then the focus for me and for people who are interested in growing hockey at the institutional level is to have processes and have a system of play, have a clear structure of developing the talent at that level. So for me, I wouldn't really be worried about the results that we get, but as long as the players are enjoying themselves, the players are playing good hockey, then that's good enough.
Yeah, good. Felix, I don't know if you can.
I would be lying if I say that I'm winning is not important. I'm a very competitive person, especially coming from a background of playing and competing for the Premier League. But I think that the foundation or the most important thing should be the performance at that level.
Yeah, good. And Felix, for you, an alumni of UOE, but you stuck with, changed tact to become a TM. What inspired you to do this? Felix? Okay, seem to have lost him. Saimo, before I let you ask the gentleman a few questions, we were just looking at the National League Western Circuit, and we just went through the results. And maybe as we shift focus to the eastern side for a bit, actually, we did have a game we had one, and that was Impala Gorilla. But I wanted to shift focus to the Super League, and we Super League men, and we had a few results on Sunday actually, where majority of the game played, because the Jacobs youngsters game was postponed to, I think, either the first or the second weekend of June.
Yes.
Yes, and get a confirmation of that. But we had, let's start with, I don't know whether to start with your team, but let's start with Masters, Wazalendo Masters. 3-1 against Nakuru. That's the Nakuru's second loss. And then we had, and it happens to be Emmanuel's former team, and drew 1-1 with Multimedia University. And I know you're going to give us an analysis of that. And then we had Parkland against Park Road Tigers. Maybe let's start with the Tigers game as we move to analysis of the Tuk MMU. What went wrong, or what happened, man?
It's quite difficult to analyze this game, considering that I was part of the team that lost that day. But it was more or less a game that we should have won, considering how positive we felt. We felt that we could get a result. The team felt that they were fitter than Parklands, but at the end of the day, Parklands took their chances and we did not. We created a lot of chances, but unfortunately, we were unable to take them. At the end of the day, it's a matter of who takes their chances. The other thing is we were unable to hold them in terms of the counter attacks. They were able to string one or two passes. They get into our defensive areas, and it was a matter of executing the goal. As I said, it's a difficult one to analyze, especially coming from a losing side. But we are going to look at the tactics board much later. I'd like first to start with the Tuk versus MMU match, because they're one of the matches I watched. And one of the things I noticed about those matches is that MMU got the ball in good areas, but were unable to make use of the ball. So as you've seen there, that's how most of the time the teams were set up. I don't know whether that was the formation that the coaches came up with, but most of the time you found that MMU were deploying um, the blue side, MMU. They were deploying that sort of a formation where they had a defensive four, and then they had a guard player, and then they were playing like one forward was sticking at the top, and the other was a supporting forward, and Took most of the time were operating with two forwards. But one thing I noticed about Took is that whenever they got the ball, let's say in good forward positions, like there. So assuming that this player is the one with the ball. So this forward, instead of looking for support either from the far post or P spot or the D top, he was opting to either hit the ball towards goal or trying to dribble looking for space. So we found that most of the time they were losing the balls to this goalkeeper here. And the other thing is that the MMU defenders were most of the time caught in such positions. They were not caught in front of the ball. So ideally, the defender should be in these positions. But most of the time they were being caught facing the backs of the forwards. The unfortunate bit is that Took were not taking their chances. They were hasty. There were times when this player could get the ball, let's say, in this region, instead of once again looking for a pass to this person or this person, they were looking to do a tomahawk hit or a backhand hit, and most of the time the balls were going out, either through this side or through this side the goalkeeper collects. Now, on the other hand, whenever MMU got to defend the ball or collect the Blues balls, these balls were getting to this defender and they were getting lost in this area. Reason being, as you can see this shape here, they were being caught in this line of defense. Yeah, so they needed to work out how they could get this ball out of this position. So I think in the second half they were able to get the ball out of these positions because they were able to redistribute their players into wider areas, but yet they were not making good use of their passes. Most of the time this forward was isolated. He was either marked by one defender and this other forward was roaming in between. And once you have that, there was this gap in between here. Once you see this gap, there was this gap that they were leaving behind, and they were unable to cover this gap. Yeah,
and that
so
that gives the midfielders a greater chance of just moving the ball ahead.
yeah, so Took had very good plays. Sorry, they had good plays in midfield because they were playing some sort of a narrow midfield like so, and they were able to dominate this central midfield area. So whenever this player got the ball, let's say this deep lying playmaker or defender or guard player, they were always playing this ball to this side. They were playing the ball there or the ball there.
Namaanisha walikuwa
But you see,
wanatoa balls nje sana.
actually, yeah, the balls most of the time were spilling out. But whenever these two players got the ball, they were unable to string passes towards attacking areas, like so, because they only had an isolated forward here and another forward who was mainly like in the midfield area. So whenever this player got the ball, he was not getting as much support, because hata akipata ball hapo, by the time this forward is coming in to support, all these defenders were always there to cover. Yeah, so it meant that the MMU midfielders had to cover a lot of ground so that they can support their forward. And by the time they were covering ground to support their forward, these two midfielders were already back, giving more support to the defenders. And at the same time, whenever Tuku won the ball, they were able to play quick passes, and they had already 3 people up top. So you find that these people are not running back as much, and they were covering these sides. So it was a matter of getting the ball to this player, and then they had this forward was always making runs, lateral runs, either down to the left or to the right. So unfortunately, they were unable to take their chances.
Let me bring in Emmanuel. You can see our board. If you're playing against either of this side, what would be the formation number 1 of play that will help you to achieve the 3 points that you need? Manu?
Well, I think for me, one of the key things that you look at, especially in the yes.
Go on.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. So I was saying, I think one of the key. Okay. Thank you. So I think one of the key things that you need to look at is, as what was being pointed out here is you don't leave 2 players hanging in midfield, because that will kill you. That will kill you. You can't allow your opponent to get the ball and dominate that central midfield area, because with just one pass, you find yourself in a very difficult situation defending, and with just one intelligent pass, you get a PC. The opponents will get a PC, and playing at City Park and getting a PC right now, it's very difficult to defend a PC at City Park, especially because of the way the surface is very fast. The one advantage of having an old surface is the ball is really fast on that surface. Just one good push out, one stop, they can do whatever they want. But then again, I think the other thing that I think with teams in this country is defending the baseline. Most of our teams are very conscious of the ball in front of them. A good number of teams almost always will lose the player if they make the run down our baseline. And I think that is, if you look at the current trends, the way hockey is played in the Pro League, they tend to use a lot of scoops down the blind side of the team, or if you want the Premier League example, Butali Sugar, Strathmore University, and even Police, sometimes they really love playing that ball to the blind side, and then you find the defenders are now in a situation where they are facing their own goal when they are supposed to be defending the same goal. So I think that those are some of the things that you really need to be careful about, regardless of the formation that you are using. But then allowing a team to dominate the midfield is a no-no. If they have to go through the baseline, then that's another thing. But then if you allow the opponents to dominate your midfield, they can do whatever they want to your team. You can get damaged from any angle. I think those would be my take on how they, the best way to approach those matches. But I think having not watched them, we really are depending on what the analyst was seeing, what the analysis from
Simon.
From why is the name disappearing?
I know. Don't worry, that happens on this show.
Jina za nini ya? The Facebook names bana ni zile huwezi sema.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
Mwangi. Yeah. Mwangi what?
Yeah, hiyo. Sema tu Mwangi, hiyo imetosha.
He has a name that if we mention here right now, Restream might decide to shut us off.
Yeah.
Yeah. Simon, he's pointed out something that you and I had a discussion. Was it 2 weeks ago about you taking advantage of the blind side? It seems that this is something that works out well for most teams and can achieve very good results.
Yeah. If I may go back to the coaching board here and just do a reset of everything. You see, most of the time, teams play in a 4-4-2 sort of formation, and 4-4-2 I'm giving in terms of a normal flat 4-4-2. So you find that players will play in this way. So they have the wide players here, and they have let's say midfielder there. So whenever these players have the ball, ideally coaches will tell the strikers stay wide, stay deep and wide, like so, to get the ball. Okay, so that whenever this player has the ball, let's say we have a midfielder here getting the ball, our first option is always to go down the wing. But now, most of the time, what most coaches do not take care of is these positions. We usually don't have a player who's tracking just above the dotted or the 5-yard area, and another player who's there. So you find that, yes, the ball will go down the side, but you find that it finds most of the players are outside the 23, or like it will be like this. And this player, what he will do, because there is no one covering this side of the pitch, there is no one here, you'll find that this player comes here. So what happens to the other side of the pitch? What happens to this? You find that there is no player. So this ball, most of the time, it will spill outside there.
Okay.
Sijui kama mmenotice. So you find that this player hata akihit ball or when there is a player coming here with the ball and they decide to hit the ball, this ball will always spill outside.
Okay.
Ni kama huwa inapita in between the defender, the goalkeeper, because this player no longer takes up that position. So what we should work on, or what most coaches should work on and teams should work on, is, yes, you'll play down the line, but what options do you have across the other sides of the pitch? Do you have a player there? Do you have a player on the P spot? There are other teams that go as far as having a player playing there, such that you have 1, 2, 3, 4, and another player coming here. 5 options in attack. And then now what you do, you tell these defensive players to push up. So you'll have like one there, you'll have another one here, and then you'll have a last man sticking and another player coming there. So that ideally should be how we are pushing forward. But it depends on how coaches set up their team. Yeah.
Okay, that's nice. Let me bring in Felix. Let's go back to UOE a bit and how what they have been up to. And Felix, this is a team you have built, or rather, results have changed after a few issues had been sorted out. Probably you can tell us what has been the working formula for you to start getting the 2 wins. Of course, Emmanuel has given us the technical bit of it, but you're the guy who manages the team. Tell us what you have done that has helped Emmanuel get the 2 results so far. Felix? We can hear you, but you're so low. Not yet. You're still very, very low. I don't know if it's just me, Simon. I'm really struggling to hear him.
Yes.
Not yet.
Yeah, now there. Yo mti umepanda, simama hapo hapo, uendelee. Ulikuwa umeinama vizuri, rudi uiname kidogo, tulikuwa tunakusikia vizuri ukiinama.
Niko mashinani, miti ni mingi.
Hapo ni sawa.
Mashinani miti ni mingi, so lazima natafuta moja. So I think first of all, managing a team is not easy. There's the social aspect, the emotional aspect, so many aspects. And you come into a team that has lots of young people who want to win, blood is hot, and you have so I take one at this. Of course, hockey was so you have programs, some characters, we had a team, very good team. India looked very, very progressive and played so many tournaments, trying to tested the style of play. But again, I have to agree with the head coach that experience really matters. And look at a team that has only 2 or 3 players who have played more than one season. Not that so, first of all, is to build an umbrella, bring those players together, bring the experience side. Because there are teams, because we have so many people playing and they train here.
Okay, thanks. Festus, tumepoteza tena. As you sort that out, Simon, if you have any messages, I can't seem to get them on my side. I think Kenya Power pia wameamua kunizimia hiyo.
Yeah, so we have Thomas who's saying that let me hide this. Yes, Kongin, I know you'd like to retain your players, but do you have a plan for them after they finish their studies? For those who study to the end, are you thinking about a feeder program with the clubs?
Well, I think one thing that you need to appreciate for us in Tuko Mashinani, you hope that they get to play for the best clubs. But I think for me, and from experience, you allow players to go where they are comfortable. Because you see, you might want, for example, to have your player playing in Butali or Kenya Police, say, for example. But then, if you look at the background of players, some of the players we have, for example, at UOE were students at St. Anthony Kitale. So if their classmates in high school went to USIU Strathmore, then they end up playing at Butali. You can't tell your player to go to Wazalendo and there's no one they know there. So those are some of the factors. I think it's beyond our control when it comes to players, but I think for players who have intentions of playing in the national team, and you can see there is talent for them to play in the national team, then you will guide them to go to clubs that have styles of plays, that would fit into the national team. So I'll give you, for example, there's a player who was a student at University of Eldoret. He's playing for Wazalendo on the national team right now. It's called Cliff Omari. When Cliff was almost finishing his studies, we told him, if you intend to play for the national team, and we know you have the talent to play for the national team, then these are your choices of clubs to play for. So those are some of the things you do with players. But I think for us, down here in the village, you can't really do much for them, because you might tell a player, yes, I would want you to go to play for Wazalendo, but someone at Green Sharks promises him a job. What do you do at that point in time? And the first thing for us, as Kenyans, and is earning a living. Huwezi enda tu Nairobi ati unaenda kukaa kwa mtu just so that you play hockey. And we've had guys who've made mistakes of taking a break from their studies in Moi University or University of Eldoret just to go and play for some club in Nairobi. Then they come back 2 years, 3 years down the line, wanakwambia acha tu nirudi kuchezea timu ya mashinani and I want to finish my studies. So I think we really have to be very careful around giving the guidance to players around the club that they would play for post their education. Thank you. It's obvious that for this country, the most important thing is making sure that their future is secured. Hockey doesn't, unless you're playing for Kenya Police, or unless you're playing for institutions that are giving scholarships, then everything else is really down to the player and the opportunities that that player gets playing for those clubs that they want to go and play.
Okay. Then Pompo is asking, now that you are in charge, is there any plan for the large pool of lady players in and around Eldoret, being in and around Eldoret, UOE being the host team, to have a team for them? Emmanuel. Can you hear me, Kongin? Can you hear me?
Well, I wish I had a very positive answer to that question by Pompo, but I think I think I picked a battle. I want to focus on the UOE league team, and I think yes, you can hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, I can. I think there is some sort of delay, but then I can hear you.
Go on.
Okay, let me try and respond to that question again. I think I have picked a battle. I am focusing on the UOE men's team. The main reason for that is you realize there's also a team called Eldoret Youth in Eldoret that has a lot of talent, but then getting funding to play, competitive playing in the KHU league is not cheap. And for now, the university is very specific on performance. So unless and until there is performance for ladies playing in local tournaments and that kind of thing, then getting support to play in the league is not an easy thing. And for me, I think until we have some very good performances from the men's team, that is when I can, if possible, spare some time to play to coach the ladies. But I think for the moment, I am exclusively focusing on the performance of the UOE men's team.
Mhm. Awesome. Before we go on with the comments, I'd like us to quickly have a look at the Park Road versus Parklands game, and I want to highlight the last two goals that Park Road conceded. We conceded, and this is how we were set up. We, as Park Road, we basically committed too many or many players forward. We had three forwards there. I was playing as one of the supporting midfielders. So what happened is Parklands got the ball. I think the last two goals, yeah. So they just played a scoop to this player. This player was waiting for the run of this other player there. A hit towards him and a deflection towards goal. And the other one, I think it was a direct hit from this position. And all this came from a direct pass deep from midfield defense, and we know that's how Parklands love to play their balls. They love to have either a strong hit towards the player or a scoop. But now what we are unable to do as defenders, we're able to track these runners. We're able to handle them. We're able to keep up with them. We were unable to cover those spaces. And unfortunately, on that day, our goalkeeper, he did not have a good day in the office. And Parklands took advantage of that. We also got a couple of chances in the D, but Parklands were good at making sure that they stand in front of the ball, and they were also committing either one or two players were free inside the circle to collect any loose balls that were being shot across goal for a deflection. So that's how Parklands were able to defend very well. But there was a defensive mistake. Ian Langat got a ball in this position, wanted to take a shot at goal, but there was an infringement from the player denying him a clear chance at goal, and which resulted to a penalty stroke, and hence the 3-2 score. So that was just a quick roundup of Parklands versus Park Road because of interest of time. And Thomas is asking, Saimabu educators with that online board link, please, if any. Well, if you have a Windows device or a Windows PC, go to the Windows Microsoft Store and look for a coaching board called Sports Board. It's called Sport Board. It has all the coaching boards for the half pitch, full pitch, as well as short corner pieces, and for other sports. In case you are a hockey coach as well as a football coach, you can get all those there. So yeah, anyway, gentlemen, Jugush, I hope you are still with us as we want to finish this show. So
Yes,
Emmanuel,
I am.
okay, Emmanuel, let me ask you, I don't know whether Odette is there and hearing us. Let me start with Odette. Okay, what advice would you give those guys who are in universities and want to start their team, or have tried to start and they are unable to completely handle it? I think Emmanuel, you can step in for him as we wait for him to respond.
Okay, thanks, Mo. I think I have had the privilege of being there when we started one of the most successful university sites ever. When we started the Strathmore University team, it's not easy, but then I think a good pool of players and they are training consistently, and get lucky to have a good coach, then it's one the institution will get to hear about the good performance of the team. And one way or another, then you will find someone from the administration or. But I think it's not easy, especially to play in the league, because for ourselves, for example, Strathmore, it took us a whole year of convincing the institution that if we get in the National League, we will perform. And they took a chance on us and see where they are, where Strathmore is right now.
Okay. Are you back, Mr. Odete? I'm still struggling with.
They've always had. Simon,
yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so I think for the UAE side, we were around Eldoret when the team was getting in the league. I think the convincing came from the former players who were playing for other teams in the league. They had a number of players playing for Park Road at the time. And you know, well, so I hope you didn't lose me a lot at that point.
No.
But then what I was saying is, okay, so what I was saying is, the university would want to go for Kusa matches, and then players would tell them, we have league matches, we are playing in the league for, for Park Road, for Zalendo, and so the institution was the challenge of playing in the top league is very good compared to just playing Kusa matches, because you see, especially the North Rift region, there is only more university as a challenge. The rest of the teams playing Kabarak at the time are not that good. So guys were prioritizing the playing in the league. But I think my advice would be to teams that if you can get into the institutional games, if it's a polytechnic, if there's Ketisa, there's those institutional competitions, and then if you're playing if you're in the university, getting support to play in the Kusa League is very important, because that's where to play the KHU leagues. I think that would be a good place to start. But then at the end of the day, consistency in training is key.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay. Let's see whether we can have the TM have a few words before we end the show. Hello, Odete. We can't quite hear you. Hello.
Sauti yake iliingia mitini.
Yeah, unfortunately atumpati. Hello. Well, that's unfortunate. Jugush, now let me read a few comments, then we close the show. Yeah, as I said, get an app called Sportboard. You can get it on the Microsoft app, Windows Store, that is. And then where do I get the league standings? You can get them at hockeyke.com, or you can download our HockeyKE Android app for that. Thank you very much, namesake Mwangi, for asking that. Duke Ombagi is saying that hockey can wait, but your studies can't. It's important to guide young players on life beyond hockey. But if we look at this, though, Njugush, before we end the show, and I ask for you to take over and we end the show, how can we turn this to an opportunity where, yes, you have your studies. Yes, we know that hockey can basically complement your studies. You have players who are earning from it, even though not much. You have players who we know are playing abroad because of their hockey skills, the likes of Barry Awis and we have players who've received scholarships because of hockey. But how can we turn this from being an amateur or semi-professional game into a fully professional game where someone can wake up, train, play matches over the weekend, and get salary at the end of the month or the week?
I think for me, this is a discussion that has to happen at club level, and it can only come when sponsors, of course, come in and pump in enough money and resources to the extent that you can have money to pay players and let them play professionally. And it's good we have those incentives like scholarships, and that really helps a lot in terms of the professional development of a player. But for those who just love the sport and would like to earn a living from it, I think that is one very good way of doing that. It was good for me to see this week that FIH have a betting company. Is it from Netherlands from where, who have come on board and now are able to be part of the sponsorship. So we hope that other federations are able to pick this up and make sure that we have enough money. And I don't want to preempt anything, but next week we have a very interesting show, and people should look out for that. But also, one of the other things that I think can help is player transfer fees. This is a discussion that I think has to, in a way, happen in a way that even players are able to benefit, and the former clubs, just like we see in football. And I think clubs like Emmanuel's UOE will have a lot of money and resources back to the university until they'll probably take a sport like hockey very seriously if such things happen. So for me, that's one of the things, or some of the ideas I have off my mind regarding that.
Yeah. Before I ask Emmanuel for his comments on the same, I think we should now look at changing how we are operating the leagues in terms of, should we allow the KUSA to run their own league, and then probably we can have the universities as a feeder to the clubs? So we have just clubs participating in the KHU leagues and allow the university to have their own leagues because they have the resources to actually participate in their own league. For example, if you approach a university and tell them that we want to participate in the KUSA league, it's easier for them to actually give you funds to participate in that league, and that's where most of the players you can tap from them. And then we have clubs that work closely with universities and actually tell the players that, yeah, you are good enough, we want you to come and participate in the KHU leagues. But that's a discussion that I think needs to have some heads scratching. Shoulders we will brush shoulders. But I think at this point we should introduce leagues in terms of high school leagues, university leagues, and then we have the overall KHU league. And you remember, I keep insisting and I keep suggesting that we should have county leagues. So we have players that, let's say they are in UOE, but they live in Mombasa. So if they can't be able to play for a club in Nairobi, for example, and they have a club in Mombasa that participates in a county league, they can be able to participate there since they are at home. And if you look at it that way, we would have almost all university participating in the KUSA league. And at the same time, we'll have local clubs coming up because we'll have a lot and a large pool of players from universities and high schools coming into the clubs, into the local clubs, and playing in those low-level county leagues. So, Emmanuel, you are someone in the university. What do you think? How can we turn this from being an amateur sport or a semi-amateur, semi-pro sport into a fully professional sport?
Well, I think we have to accept one thing, that I think the biggest challenge that we're having is we expect players to show up and play for the Premier League teams and all that. I think where we need to start is work very closely with the Secondary School Sports Association. We could go as low as having primary leagues, but then for a start, because there is a very robust and a very competitive Kenya Secondary School Sports Association that has funding. They get a lot of support from Safaricom, Brookside, and all that, and have a very clear structure of ensuring that once those students leave the secondary school leagues, then there is something after that. Because if you look at, for example, just take one example of St. Anthony Kitale. They've made very deliberate efforts as an institution through their coach to ensure that they follow up with their talent. When someone finishes high school, when they go to college, the high school coach ensures that they get a team to play for in whatever region they're in. And trust me, if you look at Wazalendo right now, look at Nairobi Sikh Union, look at Butali Sugar, look at Kenya Police, look at USIU and Strathmore, every one of those Premier League teams, even Mombasa Sports Club, has someone who was a student at St. Anthony Kitale. We have more than 50 current Premier League players who went through St. Anthony Kitale alone. None of the talent that we have that played in the Kenya Secondary School Sports Association doesn't disappear post high school. Then we are halfway through sorting out the use of talent. The next one now is looking at how do we manage those players, and how do we ensure that that question will keep coming up, that conversation will always be there for any time you have a hockey conversation. Is it the challenge with the county leagues, or is the problem with the Kenya Hockey Union? For me, I would say KHU, being the national body, should make deliberate efforts to develop talent, to ensure that there is, countrywide recognition of the sport. If you take go for example to the England, the National England Hockey, governing body, you will find that there are very clear structures for development. There are very clear structures and a plan for a long-term plan to ensure that there is, hockey as a sport gains popularity. There is more players playing hockey. There is always a reach out. Is there anyone based in Mombasa who has played hockey team? So that should be something that the union should take up and ensure that instead of having 4 or 5 or 6 county associations who are members of the union, the city has an association. And it doesn't necessarily have to be clubs. They can even have high schools, form the county hockey association. Because you see, for example, if you go to Kakamega, one of the members of the association is a high school teacher. So they can also consider doing that with the high schools and the secondary school sports association or the university teams, to ensure that there is, every county has a county association, and we can pick it from there. But then if you keep saying counties are not doing enough, clubs are not doing enough, it's up to the union to show direction and take some initiative. I would really like to commend yourselves and every other person who are in the hockey media coverage, giving hockey media coverage. I think that's one other thing that the union is not taking advantage of. There is a lot of opportunity for the union to work with you guys and reach out to some of these teams, ensure that if there are any coaching courses, if there are any umpiring courses, they reach out through using publicity from you guys and even the mainstream media houses. Because I think also one of the things that is really impeding the growth of hockey is media coverage. Kabaddi and some other interesting sports that we never knew of actually getting a lot of playtime on our national radio and TV stations. So that's another thing that I think the union needs to look at. It's PR and communication strategy.
Yeah,
That's what I would say for now. It's actually a very long conversation around development, I wish the next time
Yeah,
I have
it's
conversation with you, I'll be very happy to have that conversation.
awesome. I think Njugush amesikia na ameandika kwa programu yake. Yeah.
Yes, I have. Emmanuel, thank you so much for joining us. This is one conversation that I know we'll be doing that. Nitaleta Simon atembee western part of the country, ngalau akule ugali vizuri, ajue ugali ya wimbi inakaa aje. So tutapita hapo kwako
Mursik on me.
tukunywe mursik tukiteremka.
Mursik on me anytime you're in
At least
Eldoret.
so
Njugush, you seem to forget where I'm
games
from. You see,
going on.
Njugush,
Thank
you
Unajua
seem
you
to
so
unatoka
much
Nakuru,
for
lakini
joining us
Nakuru si North Rift.
this evening. Fantastic.
sawa sawa. So
Sawa.
Ndugu Mwangi is saying for me, I would. Ndugu Mwangi is saying for me, I would with club tapping. Okay. Sorry, Jugush, I think you have a delayed stream, but I'm reading a comment here. So Ndungu is saying, for me, I would with club tapping young players and starting academies to feed high school, which in turn they have a responsibility on checking how the kids are faring, both sports-wise and academically. And I think there are clubs that do that. I think Wazalendo do that. They have a good relationship with the likes of Musingu and Bungoma. So, and we've seen quite a number of players coming from those places and even going on to play for the national team. Now, Njugush, take it away.
I think we are done. Thank you so much. See you next week, same time, same place. We have a very good discussion. We want to look at the state of hockey in this country. So this is one conversation you don't want to miss. So see you next week, same time, same place. As usual, Manuel, thank you so much for joining us. And Saimo, as usual, kawaida, asante sana. So bye-bye for now.
Okay. Cheers. Bye, guys.
Cheers, bye. It was a pleasure.
As always.